Okay. So the July 11th meeting of the Town of Acton Conservation and Forestry Committee is called to order. Underneath of like welcoming comments, I reappointed Andy Brazier and Mike Benjamin at the town meeting last month. Mike is re-sworn in, Andy is not, so our committee that is slated generally to be 7 and has usually been 5 is tonight, now 4. So hopefully number 4 comes along tonight. If we can take a look at the minutes as submitted by Mike before the June meeting that we didn't have for May. Take a look at them and see if we have any corrections. Do we have any particular additions or corrections or omissions?
I don't see any.
Okay.
Are we okay to stand as approved?
I'd rather not.
Motion?
Yeah.
Let's make one.
To approve the minutes.
Approve as submitted.
Second.
Second. Do you get the second, Sharon? I should supposed to do that, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. As far as the chair report goes here tonight, just want to give a...
Do you want to vote?
We need to vote to accept the minutes if they're accepted as submitted?
No, we made a motion to accept them as submitted.
Oh, I did second.
Yeah,
And then we have to.
yeah.
Have to what?
Vote.
We do have to
All
vote.
those in
Okay.
favor?
Well, I had understood if it was actually accepted as written, then you don't.
That's the motion.
Okay. Having said that then, we put it to a vote, all in favor of accepting the minutes as written. Thank you. Keep me on the rails, Mike.
Trying.
I'm trying to learn. The chair report, quick shout out to Ron Valancourt, who has left our committee last month. Thank him for his service. Report back from a site walk that we had on the Richard and Joan Nass property. The participation was this group here, Mark, Mike, myself, and the Nass family. We reviewed some of the treatments that were conducted during the winter of 2021 harvest on the Nass property and kind of talked a little bit about its applicability to the different town properties that we have and some of the different techniques listed within the management plan for the town farm lot. Old business. We had some old business regarding the review of a goal statement to be drafted by Andy, who is not here tonight, using the Town of Alfred website's Conservation Commission's base document and goal statement. You know, want to kind of keep that moving forward a little bit. There isn't anything that we need to, you know, particularly vote on, I believe, or anything tonight on that. But, you know, we did move forward at the last meeting, speaking of trying to put together a goal statement so those who were involved in the committee knew a little bit more about what our business is to be. Some of the different portions of that were particular to our role as an advisory committee, not necessarily as a commission. So portions of the Alfred Commission's call to duty, so to speak, very well me that they have been given their charge of more regulatory status than we have here, but certainly some of the goals were pretty particularly the same. So I would like to keep that moving forward, whether Andy, can keep on with the drafting of that, or perhaps I can, or one of us can actually go back to that Alfred document and start to look to, cull the regulatory statements out of it and maybe come to have a draft that we can move forward with that. From my understanding of our discussion at the last meeting, it wasn't something that we necessarily had to bring back to the selectmen or anything along those lines. It wasn't anything that needed to be adopted, nothing to be brought in front of town meeting, just something to be used as a more descriptor for those that were coming in front of the board, coming in front of the committee, to know what we have, so we, might have a little more continuity on the committee, knowing what we're up to. Some of the previous old business had also to do with the town farm site walk. I do want to have another site walk scheduled out there on site, presumably just a hair later this summer, so I would probably say the month of August. I will post up for that, but also a suggestion from Andy had been to make contact with our new recreation director, perhaps should there be any crossover with the town recreation department for future trail usage or anything like that may happen. So certainly, as we're welcoming all, I have no issue with that at all, and would certainly invite this person to come out there and see what we have as an asset for the town land, and could it be of use to the town in a recreation manner.
Was it, to invite them on the site walk, or invite them to a meeting?
To our site walk, yes, just to make sure that...
meeting here?
That as well, but
okay.
Again, we're inviting all to everything. But if in fact, the new recreation director doesn't know what we have out there happening, perhaps that would be a good person to talk to about saying, if we do have future, work we have planned on the town farm and trails may be created, then crossing that over to a recreational use to the town, similar to some trails on Mary Grant property or Goat Hill or something like that, might be a good use, and would certainly want to keep that person in the loop. The results of the town meeting that we have were that Dave Winchell was re-elected, and he is still our committee liaison. So again, he'll be kept in the loop on any of these things, email-wise and other. And that's about all I had for the old business. Let's see. Come in here. Nope, that's pretty much what I had for old business. So on to new business. What do we have for new business?
On your agenda, you had, under old business, project ideas, or?
Project, well, I had wondered if that was actually something that should be more referred, would technically project ideas be new business?
Probably.
So I kind of kicked that one forward a little bit,
Okay.
but that's okay. A project that was brought up, we didn't hear back anything from Ron or CEO regarding, our CEO regarding his, septic questions that he had over on Treasure Island, so I think that's perhaps dying on the vine. I don't know if anyone has any comments to make about that, please, by all means, bring it about. In my mind, that really was more of a regulatory CEO and state affair than we have at the Conservation Committee. But, again, by all means, if there's concerns over that, then bringing them up. So do we have new business then?
The thing I have is driving around town, I see dead trees beside the road everywhere. It's like, I'm sure that's something that the road commissioners need to address, but it's like, they're gonna start falling down before too long.
Yep, again, probably falls more out of our purview, but I didn't really know that as well. It did get brought up, were you at the town meeting? I don't think I saw you, Mark.
But I didn't.
Didn't stay for too long.
I didn't hear that. I left it. I think I went to the end, yeah, because they.
Yep. I know that it was brought up to one of the road agents, and I did, without getting into the discussion all that much, it was a matter of manpower and just getting to things in due course. I don't think anything about it was addressed particularly directly of it.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it's not just Acton, it's everywhere.
no, exactly, no, for sure. Yeah, again, I think it was a matter of prioritizing the projects that they had with the, manpower that they had and the money that they had, but I don't want to speak for them, so that would really be something more for roads or selectmen, I would say. But no, things are definitely growing in for sure. I don't know how frequently power goes out, but it definitely.
Yeah. Well, but some of them are on the side that the power company would address.
Ah,
you know,
gotcha.
So
I think,
they just kill people when they fall.
Gotcha.
or knock out power for,
Good, yeah.
You end up driving over the stumps or the logs on the road or something.
I think some of it is,
The ash borer.
Right. No, for sure. Yep.
and then the brine they're using is not helping.
I have seen though, and again, this is completely out of our purview, but I have been seeing where there's been more, the invasive Japanese knotweed has been dying back and I presumably been being sprayed more than it has been. Not necessarily in Acton, but I didn't know if there might be more of a push to be taking care of invasives that way, because that stuff goes crazy as well. We see that a lot on the woodlots too.
I've heard nothing can kill it.
Correct. It's a process that would not be one a town would want to have to take on for sure. Because again, the same way, and this is a forester talking, the bittersweet as well as the Japanese knotweed, you know, really goes crazy, so. Sorry. No problem. We're just working our way through old business and into new business.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I want to hear about a hopeful new house, but we'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
You don't need,
We haven't lost you from the committee, so that's a
No,
good start.
no.
We'll call that good for tonight. I'll take what I can get. Again, we just moved our way through the old business, and I'll hit the high points on that. Andy's not around tonight, did not get re-sworn in. We're working and trying to move forward with a draft of some of the Alfred language from the town website in order to give a job description to those that might partake in our committee.
Correct.
We are not part of a regulatory agency, however, so some of that stuff would need to be called back out, and then we can cruise through with that. Site walks on the town farm property we're going to pick up with here as summer moves on a little bit, but to try to include also with Andy's email the recreation department and anyone else from, say, Mary Grant or anything like that that would help to bring about more multiple use issues with this property. So a lot of those people may or may not have been out to the land, and upon seeing what we have out there, it may bring good ideas to fruition. Dave is our re-elected selectman and our liaison again this year. Didn't really have any, we moved some old business forward into new business project ideas. And we were just talking about invasive species by the roadside, which didn't really fall under us anyhow, so that's, now you're back up to speed.
Wow, that was quick. Nice. Way to go.
So what else do we have under new business?
Are you gonna set a date for that site walk?
I will, again, I want to make sure if in fact we want to have, you know, high participation. Part of the discussions that we've had on those things with myself and Jen has to do with will business be conducted, what do we have for notifications, timelines, and the method to put this information out. The site walk, for example, that we had on the Nass property was really just an information session for the committee members to be familiar with different forestry techniques. All are welcome, always. But the question would come, for example, if we sat here 2 weeks previous, let's say for sake of argument, and we all had a good idea of a time or an idea, would that match all of our town requirements as a committee? And again, generally for education's sake, I don't think that we have any. I've posted up on What's Up in Acton, Jen has posted, but technically, if we're not actually conducting business, I don't believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have a particular requirement for a length of notification. We just want as many people as we can.
It's not,
Yep.
it's just informational or,
Correct, yep. Yep, I mean, again, if we're proposing different things on the town forest property, nice to know what we have out there. And with the turnover in the committee, we certainly just want to make sure that everyone knows what we have and where we're headed.
I think
We keep backtracking a lot.
that's a good way to describe it, as an informational meeting, not as
Correct, yep.
a business meeting of the committee, and
Right.
no action would be taken or discussed.
Correct. So what I have planned on that, Mark, is to just look at, I'm trying to look, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be on a weekend or a weeknight or a day or any particular requirements. But by all means, if we have an idea, what gets a better,
show up.
what gets our participation, please tell me, because, when we start committing weekend days and then we have, 2 of you show up,
Yeah.
we're kind of like, okay, well, passed on something else over the weekend that we might have been able to take in during a weeknight, particularly in the summertime. I'm actually getting,
And set it, next meeting's supposed to be in 1st of August, right? Is it the 8th?
yeah, I don't have the date in front of me, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but, yeah, it is slated for the second Monday at 6 of next month. So, the only thing that I have looking at right now is I'm trying to schedule a knee surgery somewhere along the line, which may have me out for a couple of weeks, but it's not something that would be critical. And again, if pushed a little bit later into August, that would be certainly fine by me, and we'll have another month to formalize it, if that's okay. So believe me, if anybody has anything of time, let me know. Any suggestions that bring more people to the table is what it's all about.
Shall I reach out to, the people in Mary Grant and Sam?
Please do, please
And
do.
see if, what is a good time? I think preferably during the week, especially in the summer months, might be a thing.
I would really prefer a week evening at
Yeah.
best, if you can give someone enough time to get home after work and then head out into the woods on a nice evening for a couple
It
of
would be a nice
hours.
evening, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that does tend to work for me better, but again, I don't want to have, town business held up for saying we have 2 people, then we've,
Right.
had it on a weekend and didn't have participation, so.
You said Mary Grant and who else?
Samantha Singleton is the new.
The recreation.
Director,
Exactly.
yeah.
Let me,
Yeah, again, I made mention of making sure that she knew when this would
Yeah.
be, but I don't have context specifically within Mary Grant either. So again, I guess what I would probably say is, rather than to say, when can you come, perhaps if she had some ideas, if she floated a few dates to us with our, molding of a weeknight, can we find a weeknight and then get some options? That would be the best, rather than just throwing out a blank slate and then having 50 million ideas
Yeah.
throwing around. That
Yeah.
doesn't tend to move things forward.
So we have Sam and Dan Crampens is the chair of Mary Grant.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I can reach out to both of them.
okay,
Please
what
do,
was
thank you.
Samantha's last name? I'm sorry.
Singleton, I believe.
Singleton?
Yep. Now, was that a new position at town meeting this year?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're really trying to rebuild that rec. That's just-
gotcha. So I didn't personally have anything else for new business. Do we have anything else coming up? Mike, do you want to talk about, we're still trying to figure, what we're shooting for here is to try to gain a consensus enough to bring the forestry plan out of the committee to the selectmen. The way the process has been described to me by them, and by Dave actually as well here, our liaison, is that they want the committee to have a consensus that the plan is worthy, the plan is worth acting upon, and then bring about our motion and discussion to them before we then, presumably have a meeting with the selectmen to say, we have a working forestry plan, let's talk about how we going about, doing work with it. and all of these different work sessions and, you know, field sessions and things like that would be to discuss more of the specifics on, you know, this section, not that section, or this time, not that time, or any of the different, you know, methodologies of the plan. The plan is for the entire property. It's a comprehensive scenario. It's a working document. But again, the way the process is meant to be working within this town is for the Conservation Committee to bring the recommendation to the selectmen. And when we come to a point at which we have consensus here, then the selectmen can work with a consensus out. Presumably, we will bring a report to them, and then they'll have a vote on it for the, you know, the authority specifically to do these things. If there is work to be done out there that involves spending money or making money, my understanding is that it will be, you know, voted at a selectmen's meeting, not necessarily fully at a town meeting, because when you start talking about the specifics of how to do work on one portion of a lot versus another, there's too much back and forth on conducting a timber harvest, and you can't just wait for a June meeting in order to have one yay or nay on the entire project.
Well, and the plan has a lot of, many objectives that don't include timber harvesting.
Correct, and that's where, you know, moving forward with different committees within the town, you know, should bring about more information, and hopefully, again, a consensus from them. So if we, for example, had an idea that to do this work would bring about a good trail network, which could then be used by the the Recreation Committee or the Rec Department, then by all means, we would have, you know, it would look something like, I'm saying this in a small w, it would look like a warrant article in that there would be, Conservation Committee would recommend X, you know, Recreation Department would recommend the same X, and then you would have an idea that the selectmen could bring about this with a consensus to the town. Selectmen, the powers that be. So that's really the methodology that I'm looking for, and that I think the selectmen are looking for.
So I'd like to make a motion then to that effect, to accept and implement the management plan dated 12/17/19 and implement it in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So we're kind of marrying those two together.
The implementation and acceptance, the two together,
And then working the management plan with the comprehensive plan.
correct.
So that we're not forgetting the comprehensive plan and the objectives listed in there. We want those to be the same.
So what's your motion again?
To accept and implement the management plan, and I'll...
Of date or whatever.
Yeah, dated 12/17/19, in accordance, implement in accordance with the comprehensive plan.
I second the motion. Do we need quorum, though?
We are quorum, actually. Forgive me, but that was the other issue. At the beginning of the meeting, I did go over quickly, as designed, our committee is to be 7. We have never had more than 5.
Okay.
And without Andy right now, we are 4.
So we are quorum.
We are quorum. So that's where we are. So we have a second. Do we have any, you know, particular discussion? Please
Any
do.
discussions?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Kelly.
Okay, right, sorry.
Again, anything that has to do with the plan as a working document is to be brought about to anyone within the town, to any of the committees. There's a lot of data in there, there's a lot of information, and it is really something that in order to be kept within the comprehensive plan, we need input as best we can. And it's a beautiful piece of land, and I would like to see us do something with it personally.
Nice.
Oh, there's some fabulous history there.
Again, historical as well as, you know, the timber and the natural resources as well.
I don't know if the Historical Society would want to get in on that too, but...
Again, by all means, make a list of anyone that would want to be available. Again, we had actually Wes on that site walk that we found the portion of the cemetery, right? Okay. Because if anyone were to have known who that would be, it would be him as well.
He knows right quite informed about a lot of stuff.
He knows all that stuff for
No,
sure.
Richard Neal too.
And Richard Neal as well, yep.
Yep.
Is he getting around well? I haven't seen him in a few years, but he...
Oh, I saw him recently.
I might have seen him in Hannaford or something like that and said hi, but no, again, there's just way too much happening out there. We have everything from, high-end wetlands. We have, there was some evidence of old heron rookeries. There's beaver activity. There had been the old logging in the 80s. There had been old gravel extraction back in the 80s. So some of the effects on the property were good, some were bad, but nevertheless, it's a piece of property that we, for lack of consensus, I think, have just let be fallow.
Yeah. And it's out of the way, so nobody notices.
For sure.
I think it would be lovely to have a trail back there and, maybe some historical markers.
We've talked a little bit about access back into the property as well, so that would be something that we'll take a look at when we're back out there. Again, the old town farm road has seen timber harvest activity through the years. It is feasible, most certainly, to walk. But, obviously, we always have the question of the discussion of, what would we prefer or allow on the property? But as far as the discontinued road situation, that's always a bugaboo to towns as well, similar with the Hebo-Hibo Road too, so.
They just passed something in the legislature about discontinued roads. I don't recall just exactly what it was, but.
To do what? I didn't know.
It was something to do with access, In the past.
Kind of rhetorical, Mark.
In the past, it's reverted to the landowners.
Okay.
To the center line.
But if you had a piece of property further up, you usually had access that through.
Well, again, the way...
It was a fight between...
And then those were the two arguing parties, generally speaking. I didn't know if there was any action taken on it, but the difference between an unmaintained and a discontinued road is that the town completely withdrew its right to the center line of the road, and that's where, in theory, a discontinued road reverts to the middle. Again, however, and this is the research forester appraiser skills that I've seen through the years come about, is that, and there have been lawsuits to this effect as well, people who have had properties that are far in beyond the discontinuance, in my mind, are still not retracted or withdrawn or restricted in their access to their properties, even though the ownership
They still have
reverted to the center.
the right of way.
The right-of-way to their property is specific to their property, and even if the town, for example, sold, gave up, whatever, its use or design or ownership to the center line of the property, the legal argument that I understand is that one would have to go to each and every individual property and have that right, so-called, extinguished to that property beyond, before that right could be taken away by someone farther to the front, restricting usage to that person in the back, if that makes sense. But then again, I'm just a forester, no legal argument. People are definitely still arguing this as time goes by. It's happening in, in Maine, we're kind of on the forefront of the oceanfront tide, argument as well. So what's, who owns to the high water mark and all that kind of jazz.
That's why we're not the Ocean Forestry Conservation Committee.
Thank God. Exactly. Well, we've had a motion and a second. Do we have anything else for discussion tonight? Again, what I want to just have everyone understand, and out there in Acton public land, is that this is simply to bring the notion that the forestry plan previously written is accepted by the committee. The committee would like the selectmen and the the town itself to adopt and implement some of its recommendations. It doesn't specify specifically what that would be. Those rights are still held by the committee to be recommended to the selectmen. And, you know, that's really the methodology behind it. So it doesn't mean that there's going to be all sorts of crazy, you know, reckless things happening out there without oversight from anyone, so. That's the best statement that I have, at least. Do we have anything else for discussion? Did that work?
That was excellent.
Okay.
Should we take a vote?
I would love to have a vote taken, please.
All in favor?
I'm not, this is the question of an abstention on my part, so if we have a quorum without me, I would love to be on the sideline as an abstention.
Good.
Do we have anyone against?
That was 301.
So 301.
Passes.
I can, again, I'll bring that, I'll kick that upstairs, so to speak, find out
Okay.
where we go from there.
Okay.
And I'll make contact. If you have the contact information, Kelly, please forward that to me so that we can bring this about with the, and again, maybe we hold it until after the August meeting to submit to the selectmen so we can have a better consensus within town departments and committees.
I would, yeah, let's send out a letter to both Sam and Dan and see what their thoughts are joining us, and then we could bring it to the selectmen after we get some insight from those committees.
That would be great. I think that would make it a lot more smooth on the selectmen's end as well. Yep. Do we have any other new projects and new business to tend to? No more roadside Japanese knotweed tonight? No, it's a thing for sure. I don't have any other new business. Mike, yourself?
I'm good.
Kelly?
Nope.
All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.
You don't have to vote on it?
Thank you. I don't think so. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to learn one